Hi, Susan Cow Miller here, and I'm just going to take a few moments to reintroduce myself, just in case you missed me. Susan Cow Miller, talking to you today, and there's a couple of things I want to check that I can see. Okay, maybe not. So, Susan Cow Miller. Happy to share the work I've been doing for about the last 10 years. I work with stress and anxiety, trauma, emotional overwhelm, and I'm an EFT specialist. I'm also a lifestyle prescriptions health coach, and that means that I can help people find the root cause to their physical health symptom. Okay, so now my chat's at the other side, so that's good. I'll be a little bit more relaxed in a minute. Hi, Nicola and Kelly. So Susan Cow Miller here to talk a little bit about what I do and who I am and how I got here. I was a primary teacher for more than 30 years. And that was fine. 2 children, first husband. And in about 2003, my life turned upside down. My husband became an alcoholic. I was divorcing him. He died. And under quite amazing circumstances. If you want to read a good book, I wrote Survive and Thrive After Trauma. I wrote it in 2012. And I'll go into that again in a minute. Hi, Rachel, as well. So, the book Survive and Thrive After Trauma actually is a book in 3 parts. It's our story how a marriage went very badly wrong after a very long time. And the middle part, I share emotional insight and tools and techniques and books, etc., that might be useful for people who are looking to find things to help them quietly, in their own way before they go into looking for therapy or counselling if they're stressed, anxious, emotionally traumatized. And the other third of the book is full of 11 people's golden nugget, which help them survive their emotional or physical trauma. So stress and anxiety, EFT. I'm an EFT practitioner. I discovered EFT after I'd taken up counselling. I'm more or less a counsellor. I don't have my final accreditation because I discovered energy work. And as soon as I heard about this, I was just sold. I'm not quite relaxed yet. Hi, V. But never mind, we'll keep going with this. So I was sold out, also a Reiki practitioner. Now, EFT tapping, that many years ago somebody said to me, is that not just a quick fix? And I kind of cringed inside because it's a wonderful quick fix. I'm also part of a divorce program, and I suggest that people, if they're highly stressed going through divorce, they do EFT before they go out to a meeting or to meet their ex or soon to be ex, because as a quick fix, EFT releases the energy and allows you to walk out your front door feeling actually a different person, feeling energized, more confident. If you choose to go out the door raging, angry, or upset and sad and frightened and timid, the situation's not going to work to your best interests. I suggest to them that EFT is something well worth learning. But as a transformational tool, EFT works deeply alongside its development, which is matrix re-imprinting, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to help people release stuff that they want to release. So let me check that I can get up. So the comments appear on the left, and as people comment or come in, I should see them. Now, I knew fundamentally that stress was not good for me. I hadn't thought about it until the desperate marriage catastrophe. But afterwards I realised fundamentally that stress wouldn't be good for me, and I had no idea how that might manifest. But it took me to understanding that I wanted to learn more about how stress affects us physically. And just for the record, I've got to remember where I am. If I'm not talking loud enough, would somebody care to say? So I knew that stress would affect me and people somehow physically. So I did the foundation level of something called Meta Health twice. I did it twice because there's so much information there that I couldn't get my head around it. And for whatever reason, the timing, the divine timing, was never right. And I didn't do my full Meta Health training. I discovered, oh brilliant, thank you. Thanks, V. I discovered Lifestyle Prescriptions Health Coaching. And the trainer, the chap who runs Lifestyle Prescriptions Health Coaching, was one of the fundamental Meta Health people 25 years ago. And he's gone with Lifestyle Prescriptions as a more rounded approach to how we find the root cause to someone's health symptom. The reason I'm here, I don't know how to promote myself because it's such a big subject, but a fascinating subject nonetheless. Hi Claire. Oh, I'm getting very good at this now. I better watch I don't trip myself up. So, I work with how stress has manifested itself to present at a physical level. And I have many, I've no idea whether the settings have changed, but I have, oh no, I think it's okay. I have many charts full of detailed information, little bits of information to guide me, and the 2 or 3 questions to get into the guts of somebody's subconscious troubles. I know I always say non-arrogantly that I'm a step ahead. With the training I've had, I'm not saying I'm a step ahead of everyone at all, but I'm a step ahead of people who, even counsellors actually, I suppose, if I had to think about it. Knock me down in flames if you want. I know how to start questioning someone without going into the whole story. Actually, I don't need any of the story. I need to know how you feel. But that's jumping ahead. I want to give you some information that I hope's not going to be too technical. If it's too technical, I've wasted my time because you're not looking for that. I want to try and make it simple. But I class myself, I'm looking at my notes just now, I work with the why, and I work mainly with women, but I will work with all people. It was suggested actually by someone here that I should be careful how I say that. I can help all people, but let's say I work with women, and I work with women's reproductive and intimate health care. It's an area I know myself. I've had issues or have issues, and I know that there's so many people to do with heavy stress and the intimate problems. Don't go for help. Amazing. Anyway, the body doesn't lie. You'll have heard some of this before, recently actually. The body doesn't lie. The body only works to help you, to heal. It's the mind that gets in the way. I work with the subconscious, the cellular level activity which presents at a sore knee, etc. Anything you want to think about. However, I don't work with people on a physical health level unless I have a doctor's diagnosis. Now, I'm not going to get too techy, but I would like to give you an idea how I work. Hi, Emma. Mental health. Claire, mental health's amazing. As I said, I had to do it twice at basic level. There's so much information. Could I get my head around it? I think I'm there now. Anyways. Our learning comes from years of study, and it comes from 4 brain relays that develop at embryotic stage. I'll just say that statement again. It doesn't. 4 brain relays at embryotic stage. We work with information and 25 years of experience of cases, etc., etc. We have a stress phase and a regeneration phase. Now, a regeneration phase happens when the stress is over. I'll go into this in a tiny bit more detail in a moment. The regeneration phase is when stress is over and our physical body jumps in and does its healing. The body heals, and that's when we present our illness, our chronic symptom, our, if it's new, a new illness, a new disease. The body is trying to heal. We, on the other hand, look at it a whole opposite way, and we get cross, upset, angry, worried, frightened, because that's when we're ill. And when we're ill, we don't like it. If I said, anybody put your hand up and say, oh, my body's healing, brilliant, you think, oh, God, you don't. So, it can be unpleasant, the healing. I'm going to be very non-dramatic most of the time, but the healing can be unpleasant, it can be fatal, and anything in between those levels. I want to talk briefly about the heart, to try and give you just a tiny idea how pinpoint specific the information that mental health and lifestyle prescriptions people have. Now, somebody could come to me and say, I've been to the doctor and I've got a heart problem. Well, in the world of lifestyle prescriptions, you might have a coronary artery problem, or a coronary vein, or a myocardium, and it is really, really important. For me, the person probably just wants healed and will go down the medical route and do what's required. I can help people help themselves to a huge degree, or a massive degree, if I know which part of the heart. So let me give you some information. Coronary arteries, brain relay, cerebral cortex. That means we're running social perception issues in the subconscious. How we think we're seen, how we think people see us, how we think we're maybe performing. And the questions I ask, because I know where to start, sometimes the client looks at me as if I've got horns coming out my head, because they think, how the heck does she know that? Well, like other people who work in different ways to do with health, we all have our own talents. And very specifically with the arteries, from a female perspective, it's not feeling loved. Now, we're talking a huge big area of why someone might not feel loved. And from a male perspective, if there's coronary artery stuff going on, it's losing territory. In the stress phase, don't need to worry too much, but in the stress phase, I would know that someone's either got shooting heart pain, angina, or a fast heartbeat. If they've gone through that and they're in the regeneration phase, I would be looking, my notes would tell me that they're they're in the repair phase. There might be swelling of the heart or high cholesterol. Also within the coronary arteries, there's things called healing peaks, which can be dizziness, heart attack, or heart pain. Now, if there's a sexual conflict in the mix with all of this, from a male point of view, there'll be male testosterone, low testosterone, or erectile dysfunction. So equally, I know that if a man happened to come with that, haven't had it yet, but you know, there's a few of them got it probably, I would also be thinking, I wonder how his heart's doing. Coronary veins, how long have I been on here? Good time. Coronary veins. It's almost the same as the arteries to an extent, because it's the cerebral cortex, which is social perception and not feeling loved if you're a female. Huge area, few questions, we can get it pinpointed down and start working in that area to start us off. With males, it's territory. With the veins in the stress phase, there's angina. If they're regenerating, the symptoms are different. Cholesterol and blood clot related. If there's a sexual conflict in there, let's say from a woman's point of view, there's a decrease in estrogen, cervix issues, and infertility. That depends if there's, I find that out in the questions. And when people have finally decided to come for help, they're quite open about it. With the myocardium, the cardiac muscle, I do hope I'm not boring you, there's only 2 minutes more. With the cardiac muscle, the heart chamber, ventricles, that's a different brain really, that's the cerebral medulla, and it's all to do with self-worth and performance. Am I doing this right? What do they think of me? I want them to think well of me. My boss isn't very supportive. I'm going to get the sack. I've been made redundant. Self-worth, performance, overwhelm and overload. I can respond to that to do with certain aspects of the heart. In the stress phase, it says cardiac insufficiency, not functioning as best as it could. And in the regeneration phase, there's arrhythmia, which is irregular heartbeat. The healing peak in the cardiac muscle is heart attack, so one keeps an eye open for these kind of things. Now, there's also the heart valves, which is self-worth and performance as well. But I wanted to touch on, how do I know what phase someone is in? How would you know what phase you're in? You would know, well, I'll come to that with my 4 little questions at the end. You will have a stress trigger. Something will set you off. Something yesterday, something last week, something last year. You have a stress trigger, you respond to it, whether it's your son, your daughter, your partner. You know the little things you jump into. Most of them don't seem to cause us any harm at all. But the big stress triggers hit us at a cellular level inside the body. That takes us into the stress phase. We're dealing with the problem. We're dealing with the problem however we choose to, have to, whether it's a week, a month, a year. Sorry about the pings, I might have to do something about it. You've had the trigger, it's set you off. Please give me a moment while I turn my notification sounds off, because I know that for those who know about Tribe, my group is being active and the noises are coming in. And I don't want any noises whatsoever. I get easily distracted. Stress trigger sets you off into a stress phase. It lasts as long as the situation is there that you're dealing with. It can be weeks, months, or a year. And then there's a regeneration trigger. Your stress is ended, it's stopped, it's completed, it's ended for whatever reason. You've stopped it, you've been assertive. Somebody's taken it out of your hands. It's stopped. And then we have number 4, the regeneration phase. The regeneration phase is when your body says, thank you very much. I was waiting for this to finish so that I can do some healing for you. And that's when we feel ill. That's when our chronic symptom jumps in again, bites us, attacks us, and we feel unwell, and that whole phase, while our body's healing, runs its course. Of course, we can take medicines to hide it, mask it, get rid of it for a wee while. But a chronic health symptom comes back, and the same chronic health symptom comes back if we're triggered in the same way. The body responds at a cellular level, subconsciously you've jumped into stress mode, and the process starts again. So, a piece of advice: when you catch yourself responding, hi Janine, when you find yourself responding to a stress trigger and you deal with it in whatever way, I tend to swear a bit. Some people might get sad or hurt or frightened or lack confidence. I tend to jump into the instant anger stroke fear, because anger is just a mask for fear. You know, I feel frightened, but I respond in a more aggressive way. So, 60, I think maybe I've missed a whack. I thought this would take about 25 minutes. So from a lifestyle prescription point of view, beliefs, negative emotions, stressors, your lifestyle way of life, your social background, all these things shape you. They shape you subconsciously, and they shape you at the cellular level, which will present at some point physically. Anything more about that? Yes, the most important thing to do with stress. That's why anything I really deal with, it all comes back to stress. Because stress is the biggest player in all of that. So that's why it's very good to look into why we have our stress triggers, to not think why we've got them, because we haven't got a hope in hell of working that out. Because we've trained, this is a piece of useful information to those who don't know this, we've trained our brain, our mindset, with years, depending how old you are, I've worked pretty hard at it, we've trained our mindset we've educated what goes on up here, we've educated our 5% conscious brain to try and help us. But 90% is hiding in the subconscious. So if you think you know the answer, without me sounding arrogant, I suppose, if you think you know the answer to your problem and it keeps coming back, I would suggest that you don't, and that there's something else hiding at a much deeper level, because we're working with the subconscious, with the energy, with the things that have happened in our life, and the conscious brain, the thinking brain, can help, but it doesn't solve any of if there's big problems. And I tend to, one of my beliefs is that I've chosen to work with heavy end trauma and intimate parts of the body and reproductive system, which some people feel embarrassed to talk about. So I hope to get clients by getting my message out that little bit better. So, while I tell you and answer the 4 points, the questions that I want, the insight I want to give you about me, please ask a question. Please chuck something in. Don't be bashful. What can I tell you about me that you didn't know? Okay, when I was 17, I met Billy Connolly. I was going across to the Isle of Arran, which is on the west coast of Scotland. All 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds went across to Arran for fun, or even work in bars. How my parents let me do it at 17, I will never know. But I did work in a bar when I was 17. Anyway, going across in the boat, I met Billy Connolly, and I'd just recently seen him about a month, 2 months before in Kilmarnock, performing at what was then his Big Banana Feet concert. So I went up and spoke to him and had a grand old chat. This was before he was famous with Michael Parkinson. So we were sitting in the boat going across to Arran, and he was going to be performing at the local village halls. Now, if I was Queen of the Empire, we must all sing for a minimum of 10 minutes every day, as if no one is listening. You say that about dancing, it's a great idea to do it about singing. Screw who's listening. Enjoy it. Go for it. Sing your heart out. Go into another room if you must, but just let them all hear it. It's a great source of stress release. The top tip I have, I think, is really quite useful. I suggest to people in its simplest, basic form to keep a tiny little notebook, and if you have a health symptom which keeps coming back, or you're aware of a health symptom, or your body has presented, we'll get to that, V. Come on and show yourself to people. I suggest you get a little notebook. Yes, we all hear you, can't see you yet. And all you need to do is date it. Date the date that the symptom flared up again or presented, and write a line, a sentence of notes. Even if you forget and 2 months down the line the same thing happens, and God, that happened last week, and Susan said, put it in my little notebook, do it then. It'll be very useful for you eventually, and it will be useful for the doctor. Because the doctor will say, when did you have that last? What did you do about it? And I will say to you, what did you do about it? You know, how did you get over it? How long did it take? Or I would be suggesting that if it happened 3 times, you might think, there's something to be said about this. Excuse me. And you might be able to get a handle on what situation, this is the important sentence, what important situation, what stressor ended a bit before your symptom came up. Often we think, not a clue, no idea. But you might think, God, I had a row with my son, my daughter, my husband, the boss told me off, I wanted to go to France for the summer and I couldn't. I worked my socks off this summer on a new project. No wonder I'm feeling the way I am now. Because when we have a chronic symptom, often enough, we get into a weakened state and it takes less to trigger it off. I'm thinking to do with stress and triggers. And critically, from a medical point of view, the medications stop working. In general, this is a big generalisation. It's like me suggesting there's something wrong with your cervix and that what stress was going on. And you think, well, let me think in this whole global escapade of my life, what's been going on. Eventually you might see a pattern. So yes, V, Oh, he's up in the aga. That's Bramble. My other cat is sitting on the chair. It's heading towards feeding time. I sing in a choir, but sadly the choir hasn't been working since March. I'm going to check the comments, but if there's anything that you wish to ask privately, I understand completely. If you want a heads up, a sentence where I might say, have a look at this. I'm giving you gold dust. In my mind, I'm giving you gold dust. Why wouldn't you ask? Do ask. I can do it privately. I don't suggest, if you ask me a specific question about a health symptom and I give you a general answer about where something might be causing you some stress, I don't suggest you go analysing it, because I've said before, we can't answer our own questions. You can have a chat and I can give you some more information. Call me up. We can't answer our own questions. We can't get out our own way. I'm an expert at that. You can't get out your own way. I can't get out my own way. I continually get surprised when I think, oh, I thought I'd dealt with that. I'm sure there's some bits I missed out. So I've spoken to Claire about that. Fascinating, these symptoms are related to such specific. Yep. Subconscious. Yep. Claire and I having a private conversation here in public. Do you sing in a choir? Yes. Singing is great for stress. What would you suggest to do if you... now, the unfortunate thing about stressy headaches, and this is useful information, it's not going to be completely helpful. I'm going to need to have a mouthful of this. Stressy headaches are part of a constellation. If you're unlucky enough, you have several things going on. And lo and behold, the headache is the thing that presents itself that you feel. But headaches, migraine, they can be, I can't look at my list for headaches and say perhaps it's that, because you would need to PM me or something and say what else you might struggle with. Headaches they're not too general a symptom, it's not that, but they are part of a constellation. That's when someone, I'm not suggesting you, that's when someone comes and it's a longer term process, because you've got to, like stress and anxiety, you unpeel the layers, and to get to what the initial starter was isn't as straightforward in a constellation, because you're not dealing with one thing like a sore throat. What might be straightforward? A sore eye, a sore nose, a sore ear. They're not completely straightforward, but the eye, like the heart's got many parts. But literally, what do you not want to see? I work with left and right sides of the body. That's one of my little secrets, or our little secrets, because a lot of the symptoms happen on the left side of the body or the right. So I ask one question that starts helping me hugely. And I might have been chatting too long now, but seriously, if it's a left or right side of the body, for example, if it was the womb, I think that's probably smack bang in the middle. That left and right doesn't help me with that. But if you are left-handed, write with your left hand, you're not left dominant. It doesn't mean that you're left dominant in my world. It might mean it in somebody else that helps you in a different direction. So, headaches. I can't help you with that. But to do with, if someone had difficulty conceiving, you think there's a problem to do with periods. So why is that a problem? But there's also ovaries in there. there's fallopian tubes. I mean, I've had an ectopic pregnancy. Before I had my children, I had difficulty conceiving. Took me a long time. You know, I laugh about this. With my first husband and I were in the Middle East, and we decided that the time was right because we were earning bigger bucks. We'd try to have a family, and it didn't happen. And I quietly, I don't know whether all women are guilty of this or even all men, who knows, but I was kind of hoping it was his problem, not mine. He didn't have the problem. It was me. So then I had some tests. I had a brutal test. The Irish nurses out there, sorry, do listen if you're interested, but the Irish nurses we were very friendly with, I was just about 30, 28 in fact, you know, having a ball, we had a ball out there, it was just great. The Irish nurses we were friendly with as well, and they suggested that the test you get to check your tubes are working. There's a technical term. I'm not a medical, I don't know the medical terms well. I work with the energy. To blow your tubes, but that's probably a bit too exaggerated. Anyway, I left my school, went for this test, and I expected to go back to school. I have never suffered pain like it, because the Irish nurses said it was like having a D&C without being put out. I didn't get any medication, but I was naive. When you're naive, the unexpected is very unexpected. And that possibly triggered off a few months later, for whatever reason, no idea whether it damaged the tubes, but I had an ectopic pregnancy. I also had the ectopic pregnancy out there, and my doctor, Mustafa Clyder, sorry I'm chatting now, do go and sort your dinner out if you're not interested. Tribal scars, trained in Hammersmith Hospital in London, he saved my tube. So I still had 2 tubes working. And then lo and behold, I became pregnant. So I've had cysts in the ovaries, which didn't worry me too much, but they removed a big cyst as well as the ectopic pregnancy. I've had ovary stuff, infertility, ovaries, infertility, fallopian tubes. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the womb's behaving itself at this age that I am. So the body has its own messages that it's trying to tell us. And I'm trying to think what else I've got that I could help you with. I think I'll keep a couple of them to myself. Sorry, I don't know whether I'm whispering now. When you have personal knowledge, I don't know whether Claire, if she's still here, might agree, and we've sought help for our particular area, like the stress, dealing with anger in the old days in 2003. How to get over the feeling that I wanted to kill my husband. And actually, if you read the book, What Do I Carry? You know, I only thought that a little bit. I didn't really think about it seriously. But these things that I've got experience in, I now try and help people with. I suppose it's just an automatic thing. I'm also quite pleased I'm not a primary teacher anymore. But when people, if any of you happen to run, I think you're probably more gentle creatures. I was tested to the limits, and I didn't crack up. If you want to get a real insight into me, I'll tell you what's at the back of my book, which is called Survive and Thrive After Trauma. Hang on a second. Now, I'm not sure you can read that. I'll try and get it. But right in the middle, it says, him or me in the nut house. And I chose for it not to be me. The day I made that decision, when I'd been pushed so far, The day I made that decision was the day that I knew I could divorce my husband, because I closed down emotionally. And I now know that when we close down emotionally, we're blocking, we have monstrous blocks inside that need gentle releasing. If you happen to have a problem, an emotional problem that causes you a big stress, if you were to release it, this will make sense if you've listened to quite a lot of this. Okay, I'll get back to that. If you release in the world of EFT, matrix reimprinting for emotions, meta, health and lifestyle prescriptions, we work with tiny changes that people get the confidence, they see the results and they get the confidence to make bigger changes. Rather than going on a quick fast food diet, you do it for 3 weeks, then you run out of energy and the will to live. We work with small things. If you happen to work with big stress release, the body can go into serious shock, and that's when the more serious healing peaks happen, you know, to do with hearts and brain hemorrhages and God knows all these bloody nasty things that nobody wants to think about. So we release the stress levels within the body slowly, carefully, professionally. Blurry eyes, as a quick comment, I would be saying what's been happening that you don't want to see. You don't want to see clearly. What was happening, I don't know what a time scale is for when you maybe last had your eyes not clearly focusing. What was disturbing you? What happened that you don't want to go into? Or in a gentler suggestion. A gentler suggestion would be that we're all over the place just now, especially now that we're going back into more serious lockdown things. We don't want to see what's going on. Screw it, stuff it, kind of thing. But I might have. That's what I would say. On that note, I would like to thank you. I'll still hang on for a moment in case I get a good one chucked in. Thank you for listening. I've really enjoyed sharing. I find it really difficult in 30 seconds to say what I do. Drives me up the wall. For those of you who can say what you do with ease, then you're lucky, fortunate. Of course, I tend to look for the big problem rather than the simple bit. That's why I say when I'm technically challenged, I go into the blinkered state, and I can't see the first step because I want to get it right. I want to get it right. I don't want to look like an idiot. So I go into the blinkered state. Why did I start that? Just to do with I don't know. I can't remember. It's a revelation to me that renew phase starts when you... Absolutely. When we are feeling ill, a stress phase has passed. Whatever we've dealt with subconsciously that causes a bit of upset or a medium-sized bit of upset or a big bit of upset that's taken a day, half an hour, a week, 3 years to resolve, it's always been in the background for that half hour, that intense half hour, that week, that month, that 3 years. When that's resolved, it's like when you go on holiday, you think, why am I ill now? It's because you're thinking, right, hit the vodka, hit the beach, I don't do all of these, I'm quite good a lot of the time. Hit the relaxation. Your body's relaxed. How many of us have been a little bit off colour when we've been on holiday? Because our body's relaxed. But it's frightening, it's annoying, it's troublesome. And I suspect a huge amount of people, why would they know? don't realise that there's a relation between the body jumping in and doing some healing, screwing us up. I shouldn't be using these words because it's as if I'm fighting it. But when we get hit with our chronic symptom and our chronic pain, we don't like it. I've got something just going on again just now, and I thought it's not that. It is. Is there anything you can do to not be ill after a stress phase? If you want my professional answer, I would say no. But because you're only maybe just hearing this, I don't suggest you sit and wait. Please don't. I'm not terribly good at saying things gently. There's so many stress phases we're in, and most of them don't do anything to us. But if there's a repeating pattern, potentially, in time, or a vaguely repeating pattern, a small aspect of our chronic health will jump in. So the answer I would give is there anything that you can do? You might miss it. It may be such a small thing, but there's such a thing called, this is a very fine point to do with a healing peak, which frightened me actually, for obvious reasons. Between a healing peak and a regeneration, will get lost in translation. But you can have a slight dizzy head feeling, or a kind of, this doesn't happen every day. You'll miss it probably, but you could feel almost lightheaded, or you could have a little pain. And that could be you avoiding the regeneration healing phase because you're not really out of the cycle. But if you really, I would love you to give me a little bit more information, anyone who's now becoming concerned, because there isn't much to worry about, and I can reassure you just by giving you a bit more information to say that this is a process that's been going on for as long as you've been more than 6 years old, let's say, because some of our stress triggers fall into place then. Please don't concern yourself, but the answer I would say is no. You may not notice it if your healing phase is not strong. It may be a little inconvenience. It's to do with the headaches. A cough and a cold are constellations as well. They're part of a mix, the bronchial more than anything, I suppose. Just wondering if the upturn in cases could be a result of people being allowed to get back to more normal. And yes, yeah, Claire. There's two things in that. Absolutely. There's a correlation somewhere. Besides the fact, there's a correlation, of course, that we're less stressed, we've been enjoying ourselves, but actually, and I'll try and use nice words here, it's not nice words I'm thinking, there are idiots out there who have a disregard. There are people wandering around who have mixed in large circles and not observed even a meter's distance. They're a bunch of tossers too, sorry, there you go. I've got a suspicion that, well, the numbers are going up, so it's not really, but the fact that a lot of kids have gone off to university where they can have a ball usually, God bless them, what a shame. They're making this right now so that at least that age group of young people will have to make some valid attempt at behaving. I'm going to go now, unless you sneak something else in. I've enjoyed that. I really get on a roll when I'm talking about this, especially when people show an interest. It's lovely. Thank you very much. And do direct message, please. Do not be alarmed with the information you may have learned. Our bodies work in that direction. That is what happens. And there's small areas that this won't happen with, or I wouldn't interfere with. I wouldn't work with genetic stuff. Hereditary, that's a very questionable, arguable scenario. What's hereditary? You do not need to take on your mother's stuff or your family stuff. I do not need to take on my mother's inability to give birth easily. I failed to give birth, 2 cesareans. My daughter's had to have counselling. She's not even thinking about getting pregnant yet. She's frightened. There are hereditary cycles that get locked in, but that can be removed at an emotional level. Genetic, anything genetic that's been handed down is an area that I wouldn't remotely get involved in. That's a different matter. But energetically, stress plays a part. We can work to release the stressors, and don't be frightened to release the stressors. For anyone that's still listening, when I first did my first lesson in Meta Foundation Health Healing, I wanted to be a guinea pig. I don't mind being a guinea pig. And Sam asked the question, who's had an illness recently? Who's had this? Who's had that? Who's not? I said, well, I haven't had much recently. There's one thing, but I don't really get ill. And unprofessionally, in hindsight, she said, oh, maybe you're still running a stress phase. If people run a stress phase for years, the opposite end is going to be a little bit long term as well, the healing phase. I feel a bit guilty talking on, but I did say to her, I said, I wanted to be a guinea pig. I went out and was a guinea pig. And she said, what's your problem? What's your problem, dear? I said, I have a right elbow issue. I said, I'm writing my book because it's been going round in my head, my emotional upset's been going round in my head for years. I know the story inside out and I want to write it down. She said, oh, perhaps you don't feel good enough to do it. And my innocent, I'm very innocent and boisterous. I said, oh no, it's not that. I wouldn't know. I said, no, it's my children. I'm worried that my children will be very upset and disown me, and there will be repercussions to do with my family. And then she asked me the left-right thing. And my concern was a nurturing concern. It wasn't professional. It wasn't, can I do this? Am I clever enough to do this? I knew this story inside out. So I didn't have a problem writing it down. I was concerned at my most basic maternal level. Didn't stop me doing it. But the body is a remarkable machine. So I had a trapped nerve in my elbow. And on that note, I'm probably going to say cheerio. Thank you for listening to bits of it, the beginning, the end, whatever bit you caught. And I'll see you in the pages, in the groups soon. Bye bye.